Hepinize merhabalar sevgili oyun gezerler. BlizzCon 2018'e gitmişken World of Warcraft konuşmamak olmazdı değil mi? World of Warcraft, Tides of Vengeance'ın geliştirici ekibinden Shani Edwards ve Morgan Day'e aklımızdaki bütün soruları yönelttik. Haydi bakalım keyifli seyirler.
First question is about the upcoming patch. There are some new role-play models, some options like Starfang questline. So you could choose between helping Starfang or just taking sides with Sylvanas. That's a great step, actually, I believe. But I wonder if it's going to change in any ways in the end game experience for us. Is there any consequences, or it's just a bit flavor of choices?
Oh, yeah, so I mean, that is a really cool moment for the player to really get to choose. You know, like we've seen with Battle for Azeroth and this continuation in Tides of Vengeance. You know, this is all of these things that have been happening are really taking a bit of a turning point with the Tides of Vengeance and the events that this has all been leading up to. Right, they're really coming to a head. So with Sylvanas, as we've seen, there's a lot of player like feeling of, you know, if what she's doing is right or wrong or what's going on, right? Like we just saw, you know, we had the first cinematic that came out a while ago with Starfang, Old Soldier, and then today we saw Lost Honor in the opening scene, and it's been really, really awesome to see how different people have reacted to that, right? Because it's a very complex story. There's a lot of different opinions and multiple sides to the telling of this, right? Do you agree with what Sylvanas is doing, or are you with Starfang, right? I've loved to see the community reaction to that, right? Where people, after Old Soldier came out, you know, there was this big wave of people taking their shoulder pads off in support of Starfang, or people saying like, no, Sylvanas is my war chief. Like, let's go, let's take this fight back to the Alliance. So with that choice that you're talking about, in terms of the consequences, I can't speak too much to what's going to happen, you know, in far future updates. But yeah, there are actually different rewards and potentially different elements that might come up as a result of that choice.
So we can expect more of this type of quest lines, like changing the end game.
So with Tides of Vengeance, yeah, there are a lot of different story elements that we're looking forward to exploring, like we said, with this battle between the Horde and the Alliance and the continuation of that story. So that's definitely something that, you know, as with all things with World of Warcraft, we're always excited to hear how things are received, and we listen to player feedback, and we see, you know, how these things are panning out, and that often informs our decisions for if what we do in future updates.
Actually, my next question is a bit about this one. The game started to feel a bit horde-centric right now, because, especially with BFA, because Horde is usually taking the first step and taking actions, and Alliance just reacts, and people just feel like, why are we always losing in Alliance side? What do you say about it?
Well, I actually think the Alliance is going to be taking the upper hand in Tides of Vengeance, which is our next content update. Because what they're doing is they're actually taking the battle to the Zandalari capital city. So in the Battle of Dazara Lore, the Alliance are coming in on the harbor, and they're attacking the Horde, and they're pushing into their city, and they actually end up taking down, you know, King Rastakhan. So the Alliance is really fighting back in Tides of Vengeance, and I think the Horde kind of get their butt kicked in it, to be honest.
Actually, in Tides of Vengeance, yeah, it was supposed to be Alliance comeback, but when the Night Elves couldn't stop the Forsaken, people get a bit frustrated about it.
So also in Tides of Vengeance, we have the new Warfront, which is Battle for Darkshore, and the Alliance are also making a comeback there. So you'll get to see Tyrande go to Anduin, and she's like, Anduin, I want to take back Teldrassil for my people. And Anduin tells her basically, we're fighting too many fights right now. We can't do that. So Tyrande actually, she gets kind of mad, and she's like, we're going to go do this ourselves then. So in Tides of Vengeance, you get to do the Tyrande quest line, where you see her go with a small group of Night Elves and try to take back Darkshore. and she actually undergoes like an ancient dark ritual where she makes Elune, she like demands that Elune make her the Night Warrior, which gives her the power to take back Darkshore. So that's another incident in Tides of Vengeance where the Alliance is kind of fighting back against the Horde and getting the upper hand, really, because they do very well in taking back Darkshore.
Good news.
Yeah, like we mentioned, Tides of Vengeance is really a critical turning point in this war that we've seen, right? We've been working towards, this common goal for both the Horde fighting against the Alliance, and the vice versa, the Alliance fighting against the Horde. And like Shani's mentioned, this is a big moment where there's multiple things happening in Tides of Vengeance, from the battle for Darkshore to the Battle of Dazar Lore that we're going to see take place in the raid. And there's a bunch of really cool moments leading into that. And I'm excited to see that get into players' hands. But like Shani mentioned, I feel like this is a turning point for the Alliance where we might be having a different conversation, some months from now, where we've seen how those events unfold.
What about the war mode? People, Alliance players tend to join their war mode off because the other faction is too strong.
Yeah, so with War Mode, we're actually making some updates to War Mode and Tides of Vengeance. One of the things that we've been hearing from players, like you mentioned with Alliance, where they feel like in some cases they might be outnumbered. So a change we're making to the system in Tides of Vengeance is actually that depending on how many people are participating, if you're the underdog, so in your case, if you're an Alliance player and you go into War Mode and you feel like you're an underdog, we're actually going to increase the amount of rewards that you're going to get based on that ratio. So where right now it's 10%, I believe it's 10% of a 10% increase that is both for Horde and Alliance. That number, that 10%, will go up if you are outnumbered in War Mode.
Mythic Plus was a huge success. Is there any plan to expand the system?
Yeah, so with Legion we saw the introduction of the Mythic Plus system, and really for Legion it was one of those things where we weren't sure how that was going to play out, if it was going to be well received, and as we saw over the course of Legion, it was, I think, really hugely successful. Right? We love Mythic Plus. I personally do a lot of Mythic Plus dungeons myself. So with Battle for Azeroth, we made some pretty substantial changes in terms of how, for one, we added 10 new dungeons that you got to see them. So I'm actually super stoked to see. We have the Mythic Dungeon All-Star this weekend happening at BlizzCon, so I'm really excited to see how those super high-level competitors approach those dungeons. I'm looking forward to learning myself some new paths maybe through our dungeons. But with Battle for Azeroth, we added this idea of seasonal affixes, where right now with Battle for Azeroth, players are seeing Infested, which is a Mythic Plus level 10 affix, and that was really themed to feel like it was part of the Uldir raid with Gahoon, where he was this big bad that we were all working towards fighting against. So in Tides of Vengeance, the theme is more of this Horde versus Alliance, and themed after the Battle for Dazar lore, where Bwonsamdi, who's the Loa of King Rastakhan, is this big, powerful, epic Loa who's kind of has power of after the afterlife and the undeath and the spirit world. So with Battle for Azeroth, Tides of Vengeance Season 2, Mythic Plus will have a new affix called Reaping, which will take place of Infested. So Infested will go away, you won't see Infested at level 10 anymore, and you'll see Reaping instead, which is an affix that players will see shortly on our test run.
I have a complaint about mission table, because right now gold rewards are far from satisfying, and toning down the most generous Legion missions are, of course, the right way. It was the right way. But 12-hour missions just for 100 gold is a bit tiresome.
Yeah.
So do you plan to change it? Also?
Yeah, so with Tides of Vengeance, we actually have heard a lot of feedback about gold and different things that can be done. We've actually made quite a few changes to things like the emissaries already, where the emissaries that give gold give about 700, and we recently actually hotfixed that straight into Battle for Azeroth to increase the gold rewards from that. And we're also taking that opportunity to look at other gold rewards, like things from World Quests and, to your point, from missions. One of the really cool updates for Tides of Vengeance is actually something with island expeditions. You'll be able to find treasure maps, and those treasure maps will provide you with a mission that you can then go out and get really big, epic rewards because it's a treasure map, right? Like, you have to send your followers out to go dig up the buried treasure. So when you find a treasure map on Islands Expeditions, one of the rewards would be gold, and that will be a very large gold amount, much more generous than like 100 gold, like you were mentioning. So we're definitely looking at gold rewards.
How long this quest takes?
I don't know the specifics of it, to be honest. I'm sorry, but I imagine there'll be longer missions since they're, you have to go dig up some buried treasure. It takes a while to go find that and come back.
This is a question from one of my crew members.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that we will get an update on Silver Moon and Exodar zones? If the answer is yes, how long? How are you going to implement them into story, since they are the last standing bastions of their respective factions in the hostile continents?
That's a good question. We don't currently have any plans to update them, but we're always wanting to go back into our game and update things to a better fidelity that aren't quite hitting the mark. So in one of our content updates coming up, for example, we are actually remastering Warsong Gulch and Arathi Basin. So we went through and we kind of up-resed all of the environment pieces to it, all the buildings, and kept the same gameplay to those battlegrounds, but we upgraded the visual fidelity of them. So whenever we get time to do those kind of things, we like to go back and make things better, definitely. Yeah, like for example, one of the things that we spent some of our time on for Tides of Vengeance was heritage armor. So we're not just doing that for allied races anymore, we've added it to some of the classic races. So now if you're a blood elf or a dwarf, you can max level, you can complete that quest line and you'll get a special heritage armor set that is made specifically for your class race.
My last question, actually. World of Warcraft is one of the oldest games around right now, and despite the efforts on regular content releases, of course time wins at some point, and in terms of player interest. So do you plan to keep game strategy as it is right now, or do you have some plans or some talks, any dramatic changes like changing the content model or paying model, or I don't know, engine overhaul?
So we don't have any current plans to change the business model of the game, but we're always looking for new ways to make the game fresh and interesting for players. So, for example, in Tides of Vengeance, we introduced the new war fronts, the new islands, the new heritage armor. So we're always looking for ways to keep players engaged. And we plan to keep making World of Warcraft for as long as people want to keep playing it, and there hasn't been any signs of that slowing down. So.
Would you like to add something?
No, I mean, just to echo what Shani said, we've been very happy with the reception with Battle for Azeroth. Like, it was, I believe, one of our fastest selling expansions ever, and really we're just looking for opportunities, and listening to feedback from our players. We know we have a very passionate and excited player base. We ourselves on the World of Warcraft team, we're all avid players of the game ourselves, and we're always looking to make it the best game that we can. So just excited to continue development of it, and with Tides of Vengeance, I think there's some really, really interesting and fun updates for players that I can't wait for them to get their hands on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot. It was really